Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing and sort of picking up where we left off. We had a video cut off from the previous video. Sorry about that. But we're picking up in where we left off and sort of, why is it so difficult to leave or heal from a relationship where you have been wounded or have a trauma bond from someone who is narcissistic or psychopathic? And we were just sort of at the place where we were in the crossroads, and we're talking about how there's something about someone who has these personality types, traits, whatever you call them. We're not here to label and name or diagnose and treat, but a narcissistic person, someone who has an insatiable sense of self-importance coupled with a lack of empathy, an insatiable need for admiration, and they don't really sort of have a sort of empathy, meaning they're unable to relate to and sort of energetically have an energetic agreement, a healthy attachment with others. It's really laden and marked by profound insecurity in relationships, meaning things aren't always on stable ground, if ever. There's always an outcry where the narcissist needs attention. They need something. There's an entitlement. Do this for me. I should have. And they can be very pushy. They can be very aggressive. People then become like them and sort of become impulsive and erratic and go against their better values, better good, better inner compass. And that sort of becomes so dulled out or numbed out that people become so focused on the needs of the narcissist or psychopath in following their sort of supply train, because they're really the takers in a relationship, meaning you'll find that it becomes imbalanced. And then people usually are finding themselves more than happy to overgive to these people because they are so charming, because everybody seems to like them, because they're so funny. They might have just a gleaming smile that goes on, for miles, for cosmos, universes. I mean, they light up a room, they light up a stage, they light up your heart. There's something about them that makes you light and easy, or there's something about them that is unique or different. The gifts that they've given you, or whatever it is, the talents that they have, there's something very specific about them that they feel makes them special and sets them apart. And oftentimes it is a lack of empathy and a feeling of superiority and a lack of, sort of an insensitivity to others, which, puts them where they feel that they are better than. And this better than mindset or attitude causes them to do some very harsh, cruel, and inhumane, not nice, not very friendly or fun sort of treatment behavior, and namely aftermath. And it's hard to heal because not only the setup in the beginning of the relationship where they are sort of set apart. There's something about them that gleams and shines, that has a value to it that is like none other. And that is okay. Relationships with human, that's the beautiful thing. You can find something very special, admirable in another, and it's okay when you're safe to say, I really like this about you. Like, you're such an amazing man. You're such an amazing woman. You can validate them. You don't feel threatened, or you don't feel that you have to get payback in return. It's okay to express this and be creative and express yourself, but no, no, not around a narcissist or a psychopath. These are people who read others for what they can provide them. So rather than you having an admiration, which is sort of coming from a healthy, wholesome place, if you will, which, believe it or not, is okay to be. You are not overly sensitive, too slow, not, been labeled dull, boring, slow, not attractive, undesirable, rejected, you don't belong here. You should be alone. You should really think about this. You should be ashamed of yourself. You get the slam of the phone, the drop, they reject you on the text, the mean texting, whatever it is. There's that, attack and assailing of you that leaves you with profound guilt that really saturates you really to the nth, and the numbing of your being. In other words, it really chills you. It can stop you in your tracks. In other words, they really get your attention by the hurt that they will inflict. But it seems that it's so mixed in with love that you don't know that there's something very hurtful in it. There's a certain delusion that you are sort of, that's weaved into the relationship and is melded in, that you can't decipher and you can't see that you're not getting what you need. And the problem is that you are then taught to then disown and not find attractive your own needs, and being gentle or genuine or nurturing or close, or not having fear, or being good enough, or having that close bond. And oftentimes with a narcissist, it can be so archetypal that it cannot be replaced by anything else. In other words, this person saved me from, this person is my, this person was my, and then you have these sort of labels for them which take a big huge place, in your head, but in your gut, but cannot be processed and sort of calculated. It always remains in imbalance. It cannot be sort of reconciled so that the value can be found in that traumatizing relationship. Even though so much profound value has been placed on it, you can't find the value in it. And the value oftentimes is from that of reflection, memories, and having that as a reservoir within, or projecting and looking forward as a dream or a vision for your I am, and sort of moving forward. So if we look at and understand, I would say really key and crucial towards understanding, excuse me, understanding why it is so difficult to process and heal through the relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath, because the wound is so great. It takes the vision away from all the good. It obscures, and it creates like an eclipse, a void. It sort of creates another like sort of celestial dark hole that is an energetic void, but yet it tends to eradicate a certain sense of whole, which is felt within the gut, a sense of resolve, security, and processing, which is a sense of having and experiencing love and just being together without having to impress, without having to be disturbed by, without someone feeling insecure. Always doing, having to seek validation, pushing, cajoling, having to prove, defend, and justify, or living in that tension all the time. Instead, that tension takes the place of the being, and then the being becomes sort of not enough, and then your being becomes not enough. But it is a B state, and so people cannot feel whole, which means that part of them is not accepted or can belong. So like we were saying, you have to get back, like the Beatles title, Get Back to Where You Once Belonged. So that belonging is within you. The where you belong, to add on to that statement that the Beatles say, is to where you belong, where you can actually have fond and happy sentient memories, even though there was a hurt or a warmth there, even if it entails an entire person. So where you belong, because people feel a void. If this person was a mother, a father, a caregiver, a significant other, a spouse, a significant boss, a sibling, a fiance, someone who loomed large, bigger than, a billboard, just flashing right up in front of you. Like is if you were to come face to face with a large, it's just, it suddenly occurs to you that this person, because of their own woundedness, cannot show themselves in their wholeness of being. They cannot all the way be there. And you've sort of over-energized yourself and been caught up energetically in this energetic bond, which often takes place where people cannot stop thinking about them ever. I mean, it's just like they think so much more about this person. And if you would only direct that to yourself and say, you know what, it's okay to be like weaving back in before that video, you can be like, Jessica Simpson, like she displayed that picture where she said, a month and a half ago, she was so drunk or what have you, that she could not dress her kids in their Halloween costumes, and her caption was, "I was not loving myself." So in other words, she realized that she was caught up in some sort of cycle where her own sort of demise and demolition was part of the score. Like that was just part of what was orchestrated for her to pop out of it. And sometimes you do need to realize that oftentimes that void is what is so dark. In other words, it has a different energy, and it tends to be absorptive of every other key relationship and sort of being able to go full forward. That energetic, I can jump forward or be forward. In other words, because why people can't process it, I really feel, and why the closure with this type of relationship is always invasive, is because it's very difficult with all that trauma to be able to see that core of being within them, because that person is so very insecure and they are so very afraid oftentimes of or unable to display that being. In other words, they might have a mental illness. They're so erratic, impulsive. They don't have empathy. They don't have that sort of presence, if you will. Part of their charm for a lot of people, they can. Others do not. And so what then it can be is that part of the healing is you have to realize the grave importance and significance and own and acknowledge in your own awakened, now brilliant, lit up with a spotlight sense of being that can put a spotlight on that key relationship that was so painful. If you can put like the brightest spotlight on it and help illuminate it out, where you can now like put it as a showstopper and bring it out there instead, and realize this is who and what this is, and to develop then a sense of fondness, appreciation for them, and now infusing them with a warmth, a scent, a sight, a touch, a taste, a sound, and an energetic vibration of exuberance, joy, and in other words, reflecting back where they had assailed so many times through the violation of boundaries and standards, or they had removed and instead left an energetic void. Oftentimes, as Carl Jung would state, a very archetypal relationship. So, the psyche has certain archetypes, and you can study them from Jung, but, oftentimes relationships hold certain sort of pillar-like presence. In other words, they hold up the house. They, they're the pillars that are the masterpiece of the atrium of the heart of your being. They're the foyer. They create the pedestal from which you elevate your heart from. In other words, they lift up your being in some way, but now you have to see that pedestal that you had given them, and you had, whatever that trait is also within you, that same pedestal, which, you might have said, oh my God, that was 795 pounds that I, like loaded up on my back, like of the desire that I brought, like all the effort. Like if you could put a feeling, a name, a title, to what you brought to them, and it's really oftentimes a pedestal, but oftentimes the pedestal was pushing you down. Pedestal was going in the wrong direction. Pedestal was like, that really, and that can be anticlimactic. There becomes a climactic and an anticlimactic sort of seesaw this in these type of relationships that people can become used to, and that sort of humming along and being okay and being silent and golden and just being normal is sort of ruled out for some reason, because the narcissist or the psychopath is deathly afraid of that. Why? Because they don't have what it takes. They don't have the spectrum of being. They don't have that reservoir. They don't have that same atrium of heart, that sort of grandeur of being. Like when you see them, they can fake it, they can fawn it, they can assail it, they can act as if. So, these people can act as if. So for them, it is what they put on. It is not who they are. So the atrium of their being, that which is like, just like, that's why people, like when they start realizing, they feel so depressed, and that they can't move, and like our viewers tell us, they can't do certain things, even the basics, or it becomes they feel very afraid or very panicked. And that is to realize, because the consistency of the narcissist has been so consistent, has been there so long, that has sort of taken the place of your own inner atrium, where you can rise up and sort of push up and elevate sort of your awareness and allow yourself to just be, and sort of not feel the pressure of that judgment and whatever it is, that affirmation or lack of affirmation. Did you do this? Were you that? The constant. So because you have to be able to not have so many check boxes. You have to be able to deflate, decompress. You can't always live on a climax and anticlimax life. You cannot, because that will eventually, I think energetically, people will, that will become an out of control cycle, where people will get into a depression that will last days, weeks, and months, and will take them down for a significant amount of time. And then they'll try to sort of peek through, and then they'll get this anger, and then they'll become very angry, and then have and have all sorts of raw energy that they can't sculpt and use productively and efficiently. That becomes self-sabotage, and sort of they have lost connection to that inner reservoir, if you will, energetically, of where your I am, which is fullness and brilliance of being, without it being marred. So the relationship is kind of like black spot on the sun. Okay, that's sting. In other words, is to say that there's something that I'm sort of quite not able to process. In other words, it's supposed to be that way because it's archetypal, but you must get comfortable with looking at the uncomfortable. So part of your healing journey, and to add on to get back to where you once belonged. So you have to get back. In other words, rather than thrusting forward out of control, you have to be able to instead hold your space and like get back, to where you belong, where it's okay. You're not going the wrong direction, but so your energy can actually feel that it is okay, and that your reflection also is inclusive of that feeling of okay, which the narcissist will maul, scratch like a razor, and will leave oftentimes a big mark, a band, a emotional gouging, which you're still people are still holding the tourniquet to that wound, but you have to realize that is the part of the journey, is to realize the resistance to the awareness. It is the resistance of fond memories, whole memories, wholesome memories, healed memories looking back. So healed memories and looking back, which means not only having forgiveness, not only having understanding, intellectual process of this, but there becomes a spiritual, just sort of when everything comes together and you're able to sort of see it in a very multi-dimensional, fluid, and evolving view. In other words, seeing things when you're looking back at this archetypal relationship, and realizing that it holds this sort of dominion within you. It holds a divinity within you. There's something within you that you have experienced and claim as the divine. So then instead of being angry, you can say, I have witnessed the divine. There becomes a time for reframing in the journey of healing. Instead of being angry, you can say, I have witnessed the divine. I have sensed the divine. I have felt the divine, and I acknowledge the divine. I acknowledge, and that will set me free. If you can acknowledge the divine in this pain and say, that was the divine pain, that was divine, that is divine, and that was meant to push up more of what I'm looking for within me, that is there to greet me moving forward. And to realize then that moving forward is very important, that you enact and really dial in the role of visualization and sort of having a vision of your future, which includes the right now, which includes the nowness of your journey, the nowness of the nowness of the now o'clock. You better get a now Fitbit or whatever, because you're going to realize that you need to get to the behavior. And that which has been stopping you, you've been resisting, oftentimes it's because you've not been able to process looking back. You've not been able to fully resolve and made whole, warm, sentient feeling, and really in a place which has evolved and grown to your satisfaction of how you hold this person, and seeing that there is other that you can nurture out of that wound, but then to say that you're okay with having a boundary and a standard to that divine hurt, and saying, okay, that's about the level that I am comfortable with, and so it is, namaste. And then I'm moving on. You're almost like leaving it like an offering. In fact, you can carry yourself, just physically let it go. I mean, you don't even have to be holding anything, but realize when your body is having a hard time moving forward and you're feeling out of grace, disgraced, it's oftentimes because you're moving through that very energetic process. You're hurting yourself. You're knocking your elbow. You're sort of, you feel like you're clumsy. You're not in alignment. It's that energetic processing of the nowness, if you will. Okay, now Fitbit, whatever, Apple, I mean, they're going to come out with it. You just wait. But what I'm trying to say is that the vision that you have and hold, in that when you get back and hold space where you belong in the wholeness, which means having that imperfection, meaning the imperfection, all those relationships, that together they are all going to come together, and it's going to lift you up once you recognize that. And to realize that you can't then hold that person accountable for something that they can't give you, and realize that you're not holding them accountable for something that they cannot give, and you're acknowledging and validating that, and that is your responsibility. And therefore, in proclaiming that, you can say, I'm a responsible adult. I'm a responsible spiritual person. I'm mindful of, I'm an emotionally healed and emotionally fluid person, and that, this is okay to feel this, and I'm now looking and processing this, not only as it reflects in all the senses looking back, So you have to resensitize yourself in the nowness, which means continually waking up that etheric field, that energetic field, which begins at your senses. So we talk here about the dry brushing. We talk here, oh my God, I love this coarse mitt facial exfoliation thing. I'll bring it on the channel here sometime. I got it. It's like a black mitt, and you do this and it totally exfoliates your face. You do the same with your body. You get a little bit higher quality gel, and you do your body and you totally exfoliate. You get down in between your toes. You give yourself a foot massage. That's the senses, okay? Or Epsom, like heavy Epsom, heavy bath oil, heavy bubble boil, male and female, like because you have to get back that fluid state where you can, jump and joy, and you're not self-conscious, and you're not like wondering who's looking, but you're embracing who you are with all those places, pieces intact. Even though you were taught that something was missing, or you had maybe what you felt was a invalid mentor, or they did not give you what you needed, and they didn't acknowledge that. So if they're not capable, if you can see them as a whole, distinct, separate, and concealed energy, meaning their whole, and they can't acknowledge and give that. So you have the responsibility then to acknowledge that, and then say, that's beautiful. And so it is. And go with not judgment. And with not judgment, which means, and I'm releasing concept. I'm releasing any concept of color, good, bad, when you do that. And then resensitizing. And as Dwayne of Outdoors says here on the channel, it is all about consistency. This is not like you do this once a day. This is what you do several times a day, all day, every day. This is what you build into your repertoire of being every day, and then you refine your being, and you get proper intellectual command over these things. So then the thinking begins to say, okay, I can think clearly now that my healing is in the light. In other words, you can admire it and appreciate it and adore it for what it is, and release it without judgment, without concept. So which means, instead of labeling it as anything, just stop labeling. Just don't put anything on it. Just have a big light on it, and continually have a big light on it. Oh, peace and harmony, I'm going to rack up my light bill this month. I'm putting so much light on it. In fact, I'm going to go get a whole new lighting grouping for my house because I'm putting lighting on it, peace and harmony. In other words, so that you can really see that archetypal, what you feel might have been a void, a hurt, or that was a relationship that was built on fear. That's where the image doesn't fully process, because that image was either built on fear, and you can't always, I feel that the divinity doesn't always want you to have an image of fear. They want you to see through the fear and just be. And that is okay to just be, and to be more of who you are and what you are, without being jabbed in the gut, hit up the head, ha ha, he he. You're only applauded if you do this. In other words, how you are is your growth, your becoming, your intellectual prosperity and growing, your dreams. That is supported and nurtured, validated energetically. This is not a, yeah, that would be awesome. No, this is a consistent, ongoing nowness sort of thing. In other words, you're always in the river. You're always in the ocean of being. You're always in the ocean of newness. You're always in the ocean of healing. You're always, always, always Coca-Cola, always. You're always, and so if you can incorporate that and integrate that, and then with that, realize that then your forward moving can get your body moving through some of those energetic humps. In other words, you have to ask yourself, even though I've been so judged, I know that what makes me happy is. Even though I've been so judged, what totally makes me happy is, even though I've been so condescended to and belittled, what fills me with joy and growing and what I really like to take in with my eyes is, even though I've encountered the divinity in this manner, which I might say I'm going to stop labeling. And even though I've experienced the divinity in this matter, I will release a concept of this judgment. And instead, I will fuse a wholeness, which means a never-ending cord of positive white, slowly bubbling, just almost like a candle wick of energy. I just allow that to energetically fuel me, infuse me in body, mind, and spirit in alignment throughout the day. And that is the temperature, and that is the vision, and that is what it's going to feel, smell, taste like. And energetically, I'm going to enhance so that I am empowered, which means I am coming from a strength. Not that is evaluated, but that I have going is an ongoing basis. In other words, you take one little step and you do that one little thing, and then you write it down. Even though I've been told, or even though I've received this demeaning look, I know that really lights up my being is what I really love to touch and gives me that happiness of being is. I always feel best when and write 1 through 20. I always feel best when despite this experience, I always feel best when even though I have had to lie to myself many times because of this, I really know it is my best interest to find my strength and do my elopement date. I know I should do my elopement date. So we're getting back into, if you've been on the channel, you know the elopement date is your challenge date where you go out and energetically challenge yourself to move out of your comfort zone and to do something different. So it might be a detox, it might be a slow down, it might be a speed up, it might be going to someplace metropolitan, it might be someplace country, it might be going to becoming a vegan for a week. You might need to eat meat and drink wine for a week. I don't know, only you know. But you do need to keep those moments. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. I hope these videos do help. It's time for me to wrap it up. Please share, please subscribe, and for goodness sake, please donate for more great tools, videos, discussions, and support. Peace out. Namaste.